what's your thought on the mail-in voting? Do you think that it's okay to do mail-in voting? I mean, of course it is for those that can't get out and vote, you know, like handicapped, disabled people. I think it's cool that they are able to do that mail-in voting. But I also think if you're able to go vote, you need to get out and vote. You need to vote in person with voter ID. These Democrats want mail-in voting all over because it's easy for them to just accidentally lose votes, you know, not count votes. They got something up their sleeve. I don't know what it is, but the Democrats did kick the Green Party off the ballot because of voter suppression or something. I don't know. I'll let you listen to it and see what you think. Anyway, let's get into it.
Attorney General Bill Barr expressing concern that an increase in mail voting will result in ballot fraud. Barr's comments come as more states turn to voting by mail amid coronavirus concerns. So how do we keep ballots safe and ensure that every vote is counted heading into the November elections? Former FEC Commissioner Hans von Spakovsky is a senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation and manager of its election law reform initiative. Hans, welcome. Good to see you. So let me ask you, why should we worry about mail voting? After all, absentee balloting is a long history in this country.
Yeah, it does, but all you have to do is look at the many cases, proven cases of absentee ballot fraud to understand that the problem with absentee or mail-in ballots is they are the ballots that are most vulnerable to fraud, to being stolen, and they also make voters the most vulnerable to intimidation and pressure, things that don't usually happen in a polling place. All you have to do is take a look at the unfolding scandal going on right now in Paterson, New Jersey, which recently had a municipal election. There have already been apparently 4 people arrested by the state attorney general, and there seems to have been a widespread absentee ballot fraud scheme, including stealing ballots out of people's mailboxes and voting the ballots of voters without their knowledge or consent. And that's what can happen with all mail elections and with absentee ballots.
Okay, I guess, all right, that's a fascinating example and really worth looking into. But let's talk about Oregon, for example. I think the Democrats would respond to you and say, hey, they've been doing 100% mail votes for more than one election, and that seems to have gone all right. So why can't we make it work if we want to make it work?
Well, because, look, Oregon doesn't really have the protocols in place to detect fraud, and I'll give you a very specific example of that from actually Washington State, which also has all-mail elections. I actually have a colleague who grew up in Washington State. She has not lived in the state for more than 8 years. She has a sister who also left 10 years ago, yet every election, ballots are mailed to her parents' home for the 2 of them, because the state thinks that they still live there. They could easily vote those ballots if they wanted to. The state would never realize the difference. Another just quick example is Portland, Oregon. Some years ago, a professor there did a survey in just one county. 5% of the individuals admitted that someone else had filled out their ballot, and 2.5% had admitted that someone else had signed their ballot. The state never detected that. That may sound like a small number, but translate that to the rest of Oregon, and you're talking about tens of thousands of votes.
Now we're in a pandemic, and there are a lot of people, older people in particular, who feel, you know what, it's not safe for me to go to the balloting precinct. So that's why I want mail-in ballots. And if you look at the polling, Americans seem to favor that for that reason. What's your response to them, and what's the alternative to absentees?
Well, look, we've seen elections held under worse conditions. Liberia held elections in the middle of the Ebola epidemic. And what they did is they put in the kind of safety protocols that experts are recommending. South Korea actually held its national elections in mid-April. 29 million people went to the votes, and they did all the things that have been recommended. They had line spacing for the voters. People were wearing masks. They had disposable voting materials like disposable pens to fill out ballots. They had sanitation stations, etc. There was no spike in COVID-19 infections, and the same is true in Wisconsin, April 7th, when they held their primary. They had 300,000 people vote in person. There's been no spike in COVID-19 because they followed all the same safety protocols, in fact, more so than what we see when all of us are going to the grocery store or our local pharmacies.
So your recommendation would be, look, let's have a normal election with social distancing protocols, and if we need to have more precinct workers, and do that. Is that your recommendation rather than go to mail voting?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with people that are at the highest risk for various reasons voting by absentee ballot. But there's no reason for all the rest of us to do that when we can vote in person. That's also safer than handing over our ballots, trusting the U.S. Postal Service to deliver it or not deliver it, because that also is a separate, entirely separate problem with absentee ballots.
Right, and the Postal Service is now we don't have an election day. We seem to have an election month because people count ballots for sometimes weeks after the election. Quick response.
That in fact is a problem because the Postal Service does not always deliver ballots the way they should. All you have to do is look at the primaries in Maryland and the District of Columbia, which were held just within the last few weeks. They had huge problems because absentee ballots that had been requested by voters were not delivered in the mail in time for people to vote.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Von Spakovsky. Appreciate you coming in.
There you have it, folks. It's I don't think mail-in voting's the right way to go. Hold on. I don't think mail-in voting is the right way to go. I mean, I think you should be able to show up at the polls. Yeah, you can go to the grocery store or doctor's appointments. They got X's on the floor, circles, to let you know how far to stay away from each other. Why can't they do something like that at these polls? I mean, if you're able to get up and walk and go out and do your thing, you should be able to go vote. Mail-in voting is just going to be a mess. The Democrats are going to steal the election with that. They've already proven they can't be trusted. I mean, there's been votes taken away, people stealing and voting for you. You know, it's nonsense. It's all just a little scheme they got up their sleeve from the far left Democrats, which mostly that's all they are anymore is far left. But yeah, I don't think mail-in voting should be allowed unless you're disabled and you can't get out. And then there's a form you got to fill out and have your doctor fill out and sign before you can do it every year. Yeah. So, yeah, folks, it's going to be a mess if we do this mail-in voting. I know a lot of people say, yeah, let's do that. Well, and it's on both sides. People are like, yeah, why not? COVID's out there. Well, if people would just wear a mask, stay in your distance, I think that regular voting, just show up at the polls, would be best. But like I said, if you're disabled, can't get out, then I understand that. And most of the time, you have a doctor's form to fill out and send it back to your county clerk's office. So there it is, guys. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Thanks for watching.